That was good, wasn't it? That was a good pod.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one.
Oh, you stopped because it's still saying record on mine.
I know, bruv. Listen, why are you always like relax? I know it's recording,
it's
man.
too much, and
I know. You know what? This might be the intro to the next one. Your extra behaviour, bruv. I'm aware it's recording.
Why do they call
Just
you
hush your
gravy?
guns,
relax. I know it's recording.
Relax yourself.
Why do they call you gravy?
Because
You know what? It's such a
Because his
basic note,
bones are
something-
covered in it.
Welcome to the Otto Let's Talk podcast. I am DJ Goldenchild, the founder of the Otto brand, and this is a podcast where we discuss everything and anything that is trending or what's about right now. But I'm going to hand you over to our host with the most.
Okay, guys, it's episode 3. I got Danny with me. Danny, how's it going?
Hi, how are you? I'm good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you for asking. And Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, all good. Me and the captain, we're here, we're ready.
You and the captain are ready to go. So, this week, we are having a bit of recap of what we did last week, which is a nice long podcast for those of you who decided to tune in. And then we're going to be talking about some other topics that are, I suppose, trending, are kind of on the tip of everybody's talking, and they're all the conversations. So, let's recap last week. So, last week, we talked a little bit about openly gay male athletes in high-profile sports. So some noteworthy headlines is Jason Collins, who's a basketball player for the Brooklyn Nets. He scored his first points since he officially came out as gay, and he's been massively backed and lots of support thrown his way about how brave he was to be himself and live his true life, which is really nice to see. Which is really nice to see a win for the gay community there. So Gravy, you mentioned in the last podcast, it was probably one of the best times in history to be honest, and come out as a gay athlete. What did you see really that's going on at the moment that kind of gave you that impression?
Well, I just feel like because like what's going on with the Black Lives movement and everything, the pandemic and everything else that's going on in the world in 2020, I just feel like any sportsman that comes out with a positive message saying, look, this is who I am, this is what I am, and I don't care, I think will be a great thing to happen now. I do feel it would have been. I just want to wait. I'm waiting for the Premier League footballer. Like for me, I just want to see how that's like received by the British public. But I do still feel like that will happen within the next 5 years.
I think the British public is not necessarily the problem because the British public will always back that player. I think if we go back to what we talked about in the last podcast, for me, it's the terraces that the issue.
Do you know what as well though? I think the better the player is, the worse it will be.
Yeah.
A random centre-back, I'm not going to give a name, but just someone, I don't know, Chris Brown or something, comes out, centre-back for Man City, comes out and says, I'm gay, but he's one of the best left-backs in the country. I think he will get it more from the terracist than someone that's lesser known.
No, I agree. And Tottenham have just gone 1-0 down. No, been disallowed. Anyway, Chris, thoughts?
Before Chris goes on, though, we've got to say a big shout out to Liverpool winning the league in it out. I just thought,
I'm not aware of this team you're talking about. I think aren't they a team from the northwest? You're talking some random team. I'm not sure. I mean, the Liverpool women's team, they got relegated, didn't they? So I'm not sure which team. What team we're talking about? I'm a bit unsure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sorry,
what team
Chris.
we're talking about there. Anyway, don't interrupt Chris like that. That's a bit rude.
Yeah, know your role in it. No, honestly, like I think you're absolutely right, Al. I think it's not until you've been to a couple of games, like at all levels. Like I've been to like games at Sutton United, like in pre-season when they've played like the Arsenal youth team, and I've been to the Emirates when it's been packed out. It gets lost a little bit, like in a big stadium. Generally speaking, I think it does depend on the group of fans. Like yeah. I think I've never been to an Arsenal game. I've not been to that many. I'll be honest. I've probably been to like a dozen, but I've never been to an Arsenal game, and I've heard horrific chants coming from the Arsenal fans. I can say that with. Can you
chant? Can you chant in a library? Is that possible?
Pardon?
You're an idiot.
Can you chant when you're in a library?
It's not advisable because you're too busy watching like elite athletes on a carpet. But
Well done, Chris.
It's difficult when you're winning FA Cups all the time. Like, it's difficult to hear over the top of that. But in all seriousness, I definitely think there are certain football clubs with worse sets of fans.
Reputations. Yeah,
like reputation. Like, I completely understand what you're saying with that, but I think it's too lazy to tar everyone with the same brush and say all these fans are scum or all these fans are close-minded or whatever. Like, that's too easy. Because it's simply not the case. It's such a small percentage, like we've touched on before. Like the few ruin it for the many. But I definitely think some football clubs, as a culture, are more tolerant. Like, off topic, but Arsenal were one of the first clubs to have a large percentage of their first team being black players, and like that's always been normal to me. It's never been an issue. You look at some clubs, and it literally took like a decade later for that to be normality, and not even race, but you look at nationality as well, and like I remember when I was a little bit younger, like as a teenager, and that, and it was such a big thing when Arsenal fielded a team without an English player. And the papers were like, oh, this is a disgrace. Now I look back at it, I'm thinking, like, what does that matter? Like, it's irrelevant. Like, yeah, it's an English football club, but like, if the 11 best players available at the time are all from different parts of Europe and Africa and Asia, like, who cares? It's irrelevant.
Can I add to that? Chris is actually right. I believe Arsenal fielded 8 or 9 black players in one game. I think that's the record.
And let's be honest, that's when we were about it. That's when we were active.
That's when we were active.
Invincibles.
Yeah,
Invincibles. Has anyone else got a whole Premier League season unbeaten?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they have. No. Anyway, Al, back to you.
I suppose it's important to add up all of those invincible moments and work out who actually ended that invincible moment and how many league titles that team's won. But anyway, I digress.
Danny, we're leaving Danny out. We're leaving Danny out.
I mean, before we move on to the next bit, I think the reason why I say the terraces is because if you remember very recently, probably about a year ago, Romelu Lukaku was racially abused by the Cagliari fans, and
Italy's a different thing.
I think the reason why I say it's the terraces is because the ultras in Italy are quite famous for this, and in fact, it was the Inter Milan ultras, so the ultras of his own team, that told him that basically he shouldn't take it personally, and actually it's a sign that he's a good player, because ultimately we do this to other players because we know that if we say things like this, it will put them off their stride. We don't mean it. We don't mean to say you look like a monkey and throw bananas at you. We don't actually believe it, but we know it puts you off your stride. So take it as a compliment. And actually, that's what the Cagliari fans, the ultras, came out and said. They kind of collaborated with the Inter Milan fans and said, "Yeah, look, you're a good player. We want you to put you off your game, so we're going to racially abuse you, but we don't believe in it."
That's just liberties, man. I'm not even lying. I couldn't handle that.
And that's the point. So if you're Harry Kane or you're Marcus Rashford or you're Raheem Sterling, and you identify as a gay man, you will know that there will be every fan internationally and within the Premiership that are going to be throwing those insults at you just to put you off your stride, and they might generally not even believe what they're saying, but they know it hurts. And that's why
Lennox Lewis got it in boxing, didn't he? There was questions
about he did.
If Lennox Lewis was gay, and he got that even from.
He was married though, wasn't he? Wasn't he married?
Yeah, he was, but that doesn't matter.
Listen, even if Lennox was secretly homosexual, like, say that in a derogatory way, he will lock off your chin.
I think Rockman said it to him, and look what happened in a rematch. He floored
GBH.
Yeah,
he got dealt with. But anyway, we digress. So the other part of last week's pod was talking about social media versus reality, which is a topic which I can talk for hours about. But when I was doing my show notes, I found it quite interesting that when I tried to find a bit more information about social media, just to see if there's any relevant news stories, when I Google searched just the phrase social media, and I sorted the results in the top 5 of what videos came up first. And here are the titles, yeah? Title 1, how social media is destroying our brains. 2, why people are choosing to quit social media. 3, FOMO, our relationship with social media. 4, 5 social media marketing tips to dominate in 2020. And 5, social media is making us unsocial. And that's a TED Talk by Christine Gallucci. And out of all of those 5 headlines, of the top ones that have come out in YouTube, at least 4 of them shine quite a negative or unfavorable light on social media. But yet, as we mentioned last pod, we're a nation of social media enthusiasts. So I know what my experiences of social media has been like. Danny, what has yours been like?
Well, up until recently, I've always had private accounts on Instagram and Facebook, although I don't really use Facebook anymore. So I started a page called Women Winging It, and I just wanted to, because a lot of people I knew was like, oh, the kids are hilarious, you should share it, and also I wanted to create an account that was real, that showed what my kids get up to, and that like they'd throw Cocoa Pops everywhere and it was normal, it was fine, and I wanted women to feel comfortable knowing that this was our life and it was normal and it's fine. And one thing I wanted was not to have anything fake about my Instagram account. And so far so good. I mean, I haven't got loads of followers, but so far so good. And no, I haven't had any bad comments yet, which is amazing.
Would you care, Danny, if you did?
No, I don't think I would. I'm quite lucky. I've got quite a thick skin, so I think I would just ignore them and delete them, or depends what mood I'm in, I might bite back. I'm not sure, but I've been quite lucky. But I do. One thing I have noticed though massively is how fake people can be. Like, I know people that are pissed off with their boyfriends, sorry for swearing, and but then it's their birthday and they're like, oh my God, the best boyfriend in the world, you're amazing, and they're not even speaking. So I do see the massive fakeness behind a lot of the accounts, but I do think Instagram and other social media accounts are amazing for businesses, and so there's like a flip side to it, like can be amazing for businesses. But another thing that I find with social media is, me and John was having a conversation today about something, and he was giving me his opinion, and he was like adamant, and I said, are you talking from statistics, or are you talking from what you've read on social media? And he was like, well, I don't know the statistics. I said, right, exactly. So a lot of people take what is written on social media as gospel, and I think that's where...
I think that's because on social media at the moment, I think you get a lot of the hard-hitting news before it gets to the actual news outlets, if you get what I mean. Because everyone's got a mobile phone in their hand. At the moment, everyone's a blogger, everyone's a vlogger, everyone's a journalist. So I think that's the problem.
I think if someone came to me and was like, 50% of this is the reason why this is like this, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I hear that. I'm a literal sort of person, so I like figures and facts. But if someone's like, oh, I've read this on Facebook and they've taken it as gospel, I won't really pay attention unless there's something that backs it 100%.
Yeah, I hear that, but even the Bible's not correct. So
well, let's not get started on that, because you know what? It's a different podcast, and I think it ties in a lot with what you sent me the other day, Gravy, about that cricketer that was talking on Sky Sports. It ties in a lot of that, and it ties into conversations we've had about black people being washed out of history. You know, that's another example of that, and that's a completely different podcast, because I could talk about that for hours. You know, just topics like, you know, the things that black people invented, which have been washed from society, that people don't realize. You know, things, like that was mentioned in that video that you sent me, Gravy, about the light bulb. Now, I knew about that. You know, it wasn't Thomas Edison that had invented the generic light bulb we use today, but that's what we're taught.
But do you know what though, Al?
And the Bible is the same. We're taught that the man that was the son of God looked like he was from Poland, yet Judas Iscariot looked like he was from Nigeria. You know, that's
the problem is
anyway.
But this is a good point about what we're talking about, the social media, because I feel now no one has an excuse to be dumb. You can go and find the information out yourself. This society growing up, this generation doesn't realize the power they have in their hands. Like, Al, just think about it, yeah? When we were growing up, to get any information, we had to buy encyclopedias on a disc.
Yeah.
On CD-ROM.
Encarta.
Shout
out to Encarta.
Right. Nowadays, you do a type on your phone and it's there in seconds. We have no excuse to be dumb. Like, if you want to learn something, you can go and learn it. So, and that's what I'm trying to say. When Danny said, I think it's a good thing. Like I've said before, as someone that's trying to be an entrepreneur, social media has been a great tool for me. As much as I hate it personally, don't get me wrong, I do feel that you need strong people around you. I know me and Chris have spoke about Wiley and some of the stuff he posts on. I remember once I posted something on my social media and Al and another one of my close friends rang me up and said, take that post down. And I know Chris has done the same thing to me. Like, sometimes I get caught up in my own sauce and you need good people. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Of course I posted stuff and I think, you know what? And I was young. And you know what? That post that Al told me to take down probably would have come back and bit me in the bum a couple years from now if I'd have left it there. But I'm glad that you guys told me to take it down.
Yeah, and I think, moving on to the next bit, I feel like, where I come into this now is I've now come off Instagram. Instagram is the only social media account I have, barring Twitter, which I have to have for work. But personal one is only Instagram, and I've actually kind of retired my personal one to only use one for this podcast. Shout out _audio geek. And that, exactly, and that's the only one I use now, and it's only following people that are to do with social justice change, trainers, as I said before, eco living and sustainability and all those other my interests. That's the only thing that's on there, and it's through only streamlining to the things I want to hear about and not other people, barring obviously you guys. It's through streamlining that I learned this concept of well, you should be lucky you're the only guys that I actually follow on that account. The rest is all other things, and it's through that aligning myself with the things I want to know. I came across and I'll wrap this up really quickly. I came across an account called The Black Man Can, and it listed 21 things that a black man or a black woman has invented that the world doesn't know about. And in there's things like the automatic gearbox, a folding chair, the modern lock, the mailbox, a gas mask, the reversible stroller,
laser
3-position traffic light signal, all of those
laser
things.
surgery that was invented by
the world's first supercomputer, all of those things. And it made me understand that, what? I myself that's been removed from me, that knowledge, because if I Googled now who made the front facing strolling pram, I'm sure it wouldn't come up with this, this man or woman's name. So I think you're right in that respect. You can educate yourself now with social media. Definitely.
But I feel as well now that the world has put us in a position where we need social media. Like what I mean by that is I signed a deal with a advertising company for the brunches, and I closed my Facebook. Like, I don't use Facebook that much, so I closed it. I was told by this advertising company the deal's only going to go through if I have a Facebook account that's linked to a page for the brunch.
Wow.
So, and I remember saying to Chris, but I don't want to have a Facebook. But that was the only way I could have signed the deal to get onto that platform. And I thought, this is ridiculous. But that's what, and people need to realize that, is that now, like you said to me the other day, Al, personal data is worth more than gold. Like, I reviewed something on Google. I looked for something on Google. And it's funny because every advert that pops up on my social feeds now is due to that search. And I found that bizarre. Yep. I was thinking, wow. And I didn't even use YouTube to look at it. By the way, if you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe, because I'm not very good at doing that. But if you are listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you want to tell us anything. But yeah, everything that I searched on Google is coming up on my YouTube as videos suggested to watch, on my Facebook adverts, Instagram adverts, and Twitter. And I just found that really, really bizarre.
Go on, Danny.
So going away from like the learning, but just the funny side, and I know a girl that actually you can tell whether she's in a relationship or not by her Instagram. It's insane. So we're like, so it's quite a funny joke amongst my friends. We're like, oh, she's single again. Oh, she's in a relationship again. And it's just by her post. And then when you hear actually, oh yeah, they split up, you're like, I knew it. And I find that insane that
Let me guess.
someone's whole life.
Living my best life. That is always
Living my
I'm
best
single.
life.
Yep, that is the
Living my best life.
I can always tell the same. Every girl that I can tell when they're single. The ones that post like relationship, like me and Bay or me and Boo, and then all of a sudden I'm with my girls living my best life. Like you're single.
Yeah. Does my Instagram post make me look like I'm single?
It makes you look like you're a busy mum running around after 2 crazy kids. No offense to your kids, by the way. Al's got 2 crazy kids too.
That's fine. They are crazy.
Crazy is a polite way of putting it.
I love them.
I think that actually leads us on nicely to the Will and Jada topic. If I'm honest, we're already there.
Right, I ain't gonna lie. This is something that took me a lot of convincing to talk about because, you know, I genuinely do believe if you're not, if you're talking about it, you're becoming part of the problem. I'm not a big fan of talking about people's lives, and lots of people might say, if you're in a public eye, you've got to accept that that's part of the compromise for earning that kind of money. But equally, I'm not a big fan of it, and I'll tell you why. Now, not many people will know much about the Will Smith and Jada topic, and if you don't, I'll summarize it for you in a minute. But I was really torn about talking about this because I'm just really on a different wavelength at the moment, and I don't want to perpetuate any negativity. But we'll talk about it anyway. And for those of us who are Frozen enthusiasts, the title of this topic will resonate with you. So, Jada Pinkett Smith is preparing to set the record straight on an alleged affair with musician August Alsina. Now, the 2-time Emmy nominee and husband Will Smith have since denied his claims that a 4-year-long relationship took place. And not only did it take place, it took place with Will's consent. Now, in an interview with The Breakfast Club's Angela Yee to promote his YouTube documentary State of Emergency, The Rise of August Alsina, and his new album, the singer alleged that he had a relationship over a number of years with Jada, and that it was approved. Now, for me, it's parasitical narrative set by bald, talented journalists just trying to besmirch the name of 2 really respected and prominent figures in America, you know. But to be fair, when I was talking about this, when I was doing my Zoom quiz, you know, last Monday, and a good friend of mine, we were talking about it, and I was quite animated at the fact that, listen, Will Smith is one of our guys, you know, he's one of the most decorated and well-loved and respected black actors in our generation, and those kind of people, you've got to protect their brand. You can't be part of the narrative that perpetuates negativity. But then he made a very good point, and I couldn't argue with it, and he said, listen, it's up to anybody how they want to live their life, yeah? And if you decide to live your life in an unconventional way, and you're very rich and you're very famous, you've got to take due care and diligence to vet the people that enter that circle. And very clearly, they didn't vet well enough, because this guy is now out here singing like a canary. Embarrassingly singing like a canary, like embarrassingly for me. And at the end of the day, he's right. You've got to vet your circle better. So, in the true words of Anna and Prince Hans, is love an open door? Gravy.
I just want to say, I want to start off by my first time. I'm going to disagree with you on the beginning bit. Like, it's not the fact that they're famous; it's the fact that they put their business out there. Nah,
but they're not though. But they haven't. This is the thing. They haven't put their business out there. Not their relationship.
What I mean about that, not their personal relationships, but Will Smith has a major footprint on social media. He's always posting stuff on there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I agree. If you want to be posting stuff out there like that, no matter if it's stuff you've posted or not, your business is there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's there. So you're going to, when this stuff comes out, it's going to come out. Now, on the relationship thing, I am the last person to be giving advice on relationships, because man's been single for a decade. Do you know what I mean? So I ain't going to try and act like I'm, but you know what? For me, I'm not going to look at anyone's relationship and judge it. They've been together a long time. My problem with is August, what's his name? August what?
August Alsina, or August aka Alsina. Chatty Patty.
I call him Chatty Patty. But what seems to happen here is Jada has given him that Matrix Land of Zion beat. And he,
oh my gosh,
he has fallen in love. Yeah, he knew what he was signing up for, and you're right. They probably did vet him though, and he's got up in his feelings, and now he's like, I want to be with you. Do you see what I mean? I think that's what's happened. Ain't they both Scientologists or something?
To be fair, I don't know.
I know that's
this
the
is
rumours
they
that are
are.
about.
Yeah, they
I don't
are.
know. I don't know much, but if they are, look, like I said, I'm the last one to judge someone's relationship when I've been single for nearly a decade. But I agree, if it works for them, it works for them, and who am I to judge? Everyone, like Danny said about people who she knows are unhappy but are posting they're happy. I do believe that everyone is quick to look over at other people's grass when their grass has got weeds and stinging nettles. So don't judge it. But I just think they probably did vet August Ostina, and he's just got up in his feelings, and then now he's like, I'm in love, and I want Jada.
Well, I disagree in that bit, and I suppose Chris can come in here. For me, it's a concept of the narrative is, which has apparently been set, that so they've openly said this. They've said we are in a life partnership. Yeah, it transcends marriage. It transcends all of that. And actually, what we stand for is no matter what goes on and what goes down, I got your back. You got my back. Business, love, whatever. But what's clear to be seen in all of this, if this is true, they're kind of suggesting that the love aspect and the kind of relationship aspect isn't really there anymore. But they are so comfortable and love each other so much, they want to stay together for that kind of partnership, right? And I'm not here to judge whether that's right or wrong. Like, if it works for you, it works for you 100%. But for me, it's like you're a young man that's coming in that scenario, that's with a woman that's in her 40s, nearly 50. And you need to conduct yourself with a bit more respect there. You can't be going. I mean, Chris, I don't. Tell me if I'm wrong, Chris. Can you, as a 28-year-old man who's been with Jada Pinkett Smith, can you really go on the radio and say, yeah, there's been rumours that I've been seeing Jada Pinkett for years, and you know what? People have been telling me I'm lying, but guess what? It did happen, and Will said I could do it. That's against everything they've agreed about, surely.
Right. If you're working on the basis that everyone has their own interpretations of love and relationships and all that, then that's fine to an extent. But you're assuming that everyone is playing by the same rules and playing the same game. Like, not everyone is going to buy into this. Yeah, we've been married since 1997, and all of a sudden, I'm calm with you. Whopping my missus. Like, not every, like, if you're 27 or whatever, like, age is actually irrelevant. But someone says to you, yeah, if you two are both consenting adults and you both want to get to it, then get to it. Like, she's obviously given him a certain amount of a vibe. He's been into it, and then all of a sudden he's caught feelings, like Greg said. Like, not everyone is going to be involved in that. Like, he's obviously not thought about the ramifications of what he's getting himself involved in, and he's like gone, cool, like, I kind of like her now. Yeah. She's not feeling me like that. Right. Well, I've got to do something. I've got to make some grand gestures to try and show how much I care. So I'm going to, try and be with her. Oh, right. She still don't want it. Okay. Well, now I'm jilted. Now I feel like I'm mugged off. So what's to stop me going on an interview and spilling the beans?
And then ruin and try and disrespect. That's I think for me, of all of that, is I just don't like the way. Listen, everybody has had issues in their relationship. Anybody can sit down and say, well, hold on a minute, he did that to you and you stayed with him. She did that to you and you stayed with him. But you know what? That's your business. That's your business to accept or to not accept what's going on. So I'll be damned if then somebody goes on, national radio and puts his business out there like that. He doesn't want his business out there.
It's such a complex lifestyle, though, isn't it? Like, I hate to use the word normal because it's so lazy and it's so, like, one-dimensional. But, like, he's come into this situation. He may well have been on board with it. He may have completely understood it and gone, yeah, cool, non-conventional, like, you love each other, but you're not together, sort of thing. You're married, you've got each other's back and whatever, but you're going to see other people. Like, best believe Will is getting about. He must be getting about if Jada is. but that's another issue. But he may well have gone in there with the best intentions.
I heard he put Margot Robbie away, so...
I mean, who wouldn't?
Shout out to Danny. But he must have had the best intentions. He must have had the best intentions in the world, like when he joined into it, or he had the worst intentions, like, right, I'm going to try and steal her. But there's no way of telling when you're willingly bringing people into your world what their true intentions are. So as someone with major clout, major popularity, major social media influence, and let's be honest, whether Will Smith wants to accept the responsibility of it or not, like, he is a major cult icon to a lot of people. Like, a massive generation grew up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, listening to his music and that. Like, he's a massive inspiration to a lot of people. He's someone that's come from very little, is multi-talented, worked really hard and got himself to an elevated status. Like, you've got to accept that if you bring people into your life and things don't go well, if they're not a good person or if they're really struggling with it, they are going to use that against you. Like, so I don't necessarily hold it against the kid that's gone like, right, well, you've let me into your life, and like he's been photographed on like family holidays and that. Like, what? How'd that work? Like they thought, yeah, cool. So we'll go on a family holiday, all inclusive resort or villa. Like, yeah, we'll get ourselves a 6-bed property, but we're only going to use 3 rooms. What?
Hold on a minute, though. I'm sorry to cut you, Chris, but Danny, I want to know why you said no. He wouldn't to Margot Robbie. Like, hold on, that's you said that with bass.
Shout out John on this one.
Yeah, but Danny said that with bass.
I mean, she is my girl crush. I'm not gonna lie. I love Margot Robbie. I think she's amazing.
Danny, this is why you're part of Team Otto.
Yeah, I don't use those blondes, but I tell you what, she's all right. But going back to Jada and Will.
Suicide Squad beats, though.
I loved her in Suicide Squad. Her little quirkiness was just, I do love a bit of quirk. But so with Jada and Will, I mean, he could have been really vulnerable because I think he went into, I heard that they took him in because he was addicted to drugs. So he's at a vulnerable
he's had a lot of health problems, though. He has had a lot of health problems.
So he's gone in vulnerable, and and whatever's happened. He's fallen in love, and he's come out, and he's vulnerable. So he's said something, or he's been really smart and thought, you know what, I've got some music coming out. Bad PR's great PR. True. Let me spread the word and get my album out there. So he's either been really vulnerable or been really clever.
It's the latter. It's the latter because, like I said before, so he was on the Breakfast Club and he was talking about his YouTube documentary, which also coincided with his new album. And surprise, surprise, after 4 years or however many years it is of denying that rumor, he's now decided to tell everybody all about it. And that's why I just can't accept that. I just can't accept it for me. It's like all that sort of nonsense goes out the window for me about, you know, he's young and he's vulnerable and blah, blah, blah. People that are vulnerable don't do things like that. People that are vulnerable are unpredictable. And this guy this was a very predictable move from him. He knew what he was doing.
Dan, sorry to change subject, but I actually got a Margot Robbie famous story for you that you might be a bit jealous of.
This guy is on Margot Robbie today.
So basically,
I even love the name that I wanted to call Isla Margot. And John
really?
No.
So it's a nice name, but she's a big Fulham fan, isn't she? So she used to live in Clapham. So as you know, I'm the Fresh Prince of that area. So I DJ'd at a place called Babel, which is now closed, and she used to come there every now and again. So she's come, seen me play. It was absolutely mash up outside. This is going a while back because I just started the clothing line. So I saw a photo opportunity. So I've gone outside to go give her one of my hats to put on, take a photo. But she's got her minder there. Obviously, Margot Robbie is absolutely she's battered. Like, she can barely stand up. But I'm thinking, you know what? I just need a photo for the to put on the gram to shift some hats. This guy is 6'7", built like the White House, and he was like, "Mate,
not having it.
You come close, anywhere near her with a camera. The camera's getting smashed, and so are you." These times, I didn't have my personal bodyguard, my flatmate there, so I had to just let it go. Like, I was like, isn't
that when you cried that time?
but
Mate,
my claim to fame with that one is, before she left, She was like, leave him. He's my favourite DJ. Just saying, Margot, if you're out
Invite her
there,
back.
I hear you, baby. I'm here. Just
Margot,
saying,
come back to one of the brunches so I can meet you.
Yeah, come to the brunch, Margot. Come to the brunch.
We'll send her an invite, innit?
Yeah, send her a little invite.
Interesting fact about Will Smith, just throw it out there for the people listening. He was originally the first choice for Neo in The Matrix.
Yeah, he turned that down.
I heard that.
He turned that down.
He admitted it. He said it didn't make sense.
Keanu Reeves was number 7. Number 7! 465 mil that thing made.
I think he went on to do The Wild Wild West.
Yeah, he did. That worked out well.
Yeah, that was the film he picked.
Yeah.
But do you know what, Go? As we're on relationships, Al, I think this is another great segment to go on to Dr. Dre and his recent divorce from his missus. Now, I don't know if the listeners have heard about Dr. Dre, but obviously him and his missus after 24 years, she's just recently filed for divorce.
50%.
Obviously, Dr. Dre's estimated value is 800 million. That's his value. Obviously, they met together when he was still coming on the way up. They have 2 or 3 kids, I believe. Now, obviously, there's no prenup. We know what's going to happen with this story.
How?
The value is
she gets half.
Nah, see,
sorry. Let's not talk about this because we're not going to get to the next topic, and it's just going to.
Can I say something about the monogamy stuff?
Go on.
Yeah,
go for it.
So speaking on relationships like Will and Jada, if it's true what they're saying, I think so. I was watching a program called Explained on Netflix, and they do loads of different series about loads of different topics. And I watched one on monogamy, and it turns out that monogamy wasn't a thing of the past. So thousands of years ago, they were the hunter-gatherers, and they spread their seed. And it was only up until a few hundred years ago that people started marrying for love. Before, it was marriage for convenience. And also, there's a tribe called Bari of Venezuela that, say if 5 men slept with one woman and that woman was pregnant, all 5 men would father that kid, and that would be the kid's best survival in the tribe. Like, they would all father that kid and, you know, look out for him or her. And, you know, so there's loads of different things in loads of different cultures that believe in different things. And I believe that if an open relationship works for your relationship, why not? Some of the one guy actually on there said that he has been married for 24 years and he was monogamous for only 4 of those years. Him and his partner had an open relationship, and he was speaking to a guy who was passing judgment and was like, I was monogamous in all 3 of my marriages. And the guy was like, well, there you are then. If you was actually open and honest about how you felt in your relationship, maybe you and your partner could have approached the, you know, going with other people. I think if someone's feeling a certain way, they should feel comfortable enough with their partner to have that conversation with them, however uncomfortable, and their partner should be like, okay, well, I don't feel the same, so if you're going to do that, I'm going to leave. Or if they could, or really they could be like, do you know what, I feel exactly the same, I just didn't know how to broach it. I personally know I couldn't do that. I would just, there's no way I could wrap my head around it, but I do know couples that have had open relationships or been to parties where they've done a bit of swinging, and actually it worked out. Yeah, it actually worked out really well for their relationship because they were both feeling like they needed their ego stroking elsewhere. They did it together, they spoke about it, the trust was there. And I think if someone cheats on someone, it doesn't mean they don't love that person. Maybe they've lost respect for that person, but they've also not tried to have an uncomfortable conversation with that person. And
can you imagine that conversation? So what do you want to talk about? I was just thinking like maybe we could, you know, go somewhere on a weekend. What about you? I was thinking maybe we could just introduce a third person to our relationship. Really?
No, so
no. I was just joking.
Yeah, no.
I was joking.
I know people that have actually been like, I'm joking, because it's not actually come out the best way.
You're so gullible. I'm joking.
It's all about the personalities, isn't it? It's about the type. It's about the type of people that I'm completely with you on that, Danny. Me personally, I can't, like, if I'm in a relationship, I'm fully in. I can't imagine the thought of wanting to be open in any way, shape, or form. Like, if I'm in, I'm fully in. I'm fully committed, fully loyal. Like, I'm all in or all out.
Yeah, but we can't judge other people.
No, exactly. Everyone's different. Do you, innit?
I'm gonna be honest. One of my previous relationships, my partner wanted to bring a third person in. I was the one that chickened out. I was like, nah.
And I said no because Gravy is one of my best friends.
You're right.
I actually find the topic really interesting though. I love it when someone comes. Yeah, as much as I couldn't do it. I do love it when someone's like, "Oh, I've done this," and I'm like, "Oh, really? So how did you feel?" And blah blah blah. But me and John have watched the program. It was called Wonderlust, and it was a series. And her and her husband had been together for years, and they'd had kids, and they started like having an open relationship. So it sparked conversation with me and John, and he was like, "I couldn't handle it if you did," and I was like, "Same." But I was like, if you ever felt a certain way, I would like to know that you feel comfortable in coming to talk to me and say, "Dan, this is how I'm feeling." And you know, like just having, I'd like to think you've got that respect for me that you would do that, and vice versa. And because
you've got to have that conversation.
You've got.
If I'm being honest, looking back, I should have done it. I should have just, because I had the free reign. That was my free pass. I should have whacked.
You had a whole free pass.
Yeah, but what was the parameters? Was it another lady or was it another guy?
It was another girl, and it was all like, you can pick one. Like, obviously, she was like, "Look, you can pick one. I'm happy for that." And I did take it. I considered it, but then I was like, nah. At first, I thought it was a setup, innit? I was thinking, nah, but this is a trap. But then sitting down, she was like, no, I'm being serious. Like, let's do it. Let's freshen it up. And I think being older now, if my partner now wanted to do that, I would take it. Because at the end of the day, like Danny said, stuff does get a bit stale. Stuff does get a bit bored. And the fact that your partner's come to you honestly and said, look, can we bring someone else in? Then why should I deny that if that's going to make my relationship last the length?
You can deny it because it doesn't fit with your. It doesn't fit with what your morals.
I think you've got to compromise in relationships.
No, I don't know. I think for me, you can say it's a compromise, but if it's something that you're completely not with, you shouldn't be made to compromise.
No, but you're given the option.
Not part of you. If it's something that's not part of your makeup, then doing that one thing is going to be so hard for you to do, whereas that person kind of gets half of what they want. Yeah. You know, I think if there's somebody that's very, very against something, you should never make them compromise. I think personally.
No, but if someone said to you, look, this is how I'm feeling, I want to experiment, and you might say, well, no, I don't feel comfortable with it, and that person says, okay, well, I'm not going to cheat, but I just wanted to let you know how I'm feeling. Maybe we can try this instead of that if you're not comfortable with that.
Okay, yeah, so I can see the compromise in that respect. Yeah. But I think if someone comes to you and says, yeah, you know, this is how I'm feeling, I want to bring someone else.
Chris, why you quiet? Because I know Chris is the guy that will say, I'm going to be the guy that stands in the wardrobe.
Listen. What I'm going to say is, Greg, when you've got an important match, you don't bench your best player. You don't bench your best player when you've got an important match. So it's calm for me.
I know Chris is that guy. I've got a new 4K camera, so I'll just wait over here.
You're getting fresh. Oh, he's getting fresh. All right, yeah. No, honestly, for me, it's you know, I'm waiting for 5K. Waiting for 5K.
Wrap it up for us, Chris. Man, open relationships, man. Thoughts.
If everyone that's involved in it is happy in it, then cool, do you in it. But you've got to make sure, and don't just listen to what they're saying, like listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, how they perceive, and people change their mind as well. Like, people might be cool with it, and then, you know, they actually see it and go, do you know what, I'm not quite comfortable with it. So it requires a little bit of care. It's very complicated. It requires a certain type of people to be involved in it, and it requires sensitivity and people to, like, be aware of what's going on, make sure that people are actually okay with it, because otherwise the relationship's done. Like, if one person sort of gets the inkling they're getting cold feet or changes their mind, the other person doesn't pick up on it and starts pushing it and going ahead and thinking the other person's being weird, then it's a done deal, isn't it? For me, no, never would consider it. I'm all in or I'm all out. But if that's you, everyone that's involved is happy and it's consensual, then cool, whatever.
Nice. I think that's a nice little way to end part 1, and we'll move on to part 2 shortly. Okay, part 2. Today's role models. Now, when we had this topic, I began writing some notes for this piece, and I collected lots of quotes from an interview of a man who I've always held in quite high regard. I hold this person in so much high regard that my ever famous thick beard comes down to this man alone. It was something that I saw him do, and I thought, yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to do. And for the past 10 years, I've grown a beard. And he's an advocate of hard work. He's diligent, and he's living proof of if you can drink your sauce enough, it can get you pretty far. But as I started writing all this stuff and getting the quotes together, I had to stop because I felt like I was perpetuating this negative portrayal of this man. And when I sat down and thought about this guy that I've held in such high regard, I realized not only is he a black man, but he was famously and ceremonially awarded his Black Man Platinum card when he went on TV publicly and said George Bush doesn't care about black people, only to have it revoked over 10 years later by exercising the First Amendment to the United States Constitution by wearing a MAGA hat. You know, this man is publicly known to be bipolar.
You know, Kanye.
And you know, for me, not only is he bipolar, but he makes the choice not to medicate because he feels like it stifles his creativity. So he's got all that to deal with. And you know, I didn't want to be part of the media ridicule because you know what? Behind all of that, he is one of only 6 black billionaires in America. Do you know how many billionaires are in America?
100 and something?
615.
Oh!
And of 615, there were only 6 black billionaires, and he's one of them. So for me, I don't wholeheartedly agree with the things that he does and says, but I'm going to say it. I maintain that he should be classed as a viable role model for young adults. Because the reason why he was a role model to me was, A, in the Heartless video, he had the best beard I've ever seen on a man.
Oh, who are you talking
That's the first
about?
thing. I think Chris established that.
People don't know. Say who you're talking about.
Yeah, let it roll. I haven't finished. You know,
he's building it up, innit?
Exactly.
I jumped the gun, my bad.
Man. No, don't worry. You're fine. Ruin my flow, man. Anyway, you know, this is a guy that you know was in a life-threatening car crash and nearly died and released a platinum-selling album straight after that. This is a guy that joined Rockefeller as a producer and said to them over and over again, I want to rap. And they said, nope, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to rap. And he refused to let it in. And now he's one of the most decorated Grammy Award winning #1 album selling artists of America. And that is Mr. Kanye Amaru West. So for me, I still maintain I think he is a role model because what people are looking at is his most recent years and they feel that he's a little bit unhinged in the things he says. But do you know what? If there's ever a role model of coming from something to nothing, this is a guy that used to dance and break dance in, I think, China or something like that when he's moved there with his mum or somewhere in Asia. He used to break dance for people to recognize him. You know, he's someone that's always attracted attention because of how he knew how good his sauce was. And I'm not going to perpetuate that and read all those comments and those quotes because it's just the media putting down another black man, and I refuse to do it. But I think public figures are often inspiration for us to be the best version of ourselves. And I just wonder, I suppose Greg or Danny can come in here. Are there any other public figures that you may look at that inspire you to be the best version of yourself?
I've got a few that I quite like. I always seem to lean towards women that are that have done well for themselves. Like, I love Karen Brady from The Apprentice. I think she's amazing. I love strong, stern women that say it how it is, and she's definitely one of them. I love Fern Cotton. He done a podcast with Holly Tucker, who is the founder of Not on the High Street. or co-founder. So with people like that, I really love. I also love, obviously, the body coach. I've mentioned him a few times, Joe Wicks. I think he's very honest and real, and how he talks about his mental health. I think he's amazing, and he's had a 10-year journey that he said recently, and I think he's really good. And I think people like him, I think people that are real and that have built up, I just love, and I love hearing their stories. And I'm quite nosy. Like when I watch a film about someone like Bohemian Rhapsody, about Freddie Mercury or Elton John, brought out one. I always Wikipedia them after, because I want to know about their story and their history. So yeah, I think people like that have worked their way up and come from nothing, I think are inspiration to me. Also people like I love people that are entrepreneurs. Like two of my bosses, one of them was bankrupt at 30, and he the way he built himself up and now what he's achieved is amazing. And my other boss, he is very creative, and when I first started working with him, he basically he must have seen my potential, bless him, but he also pulled me out of my shyness and told me that I need to be the person I want to be and put myself out there. And because he's shy as well, he showed me the way, and he was a massive role model to me. I mean, he's not out there in the public, or he might not be famous, but he's a massive role model to me and a lot of people at my work. But yeah, I think there's quite a few people out there that are good role models, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are bad role models. And like Stormzy, another one, I was talking about him today. He's an amazing role model, and what I love about him is very endearing, because he doesn't realise why he is a role model. I think I've watched him on the Jonathan Ross show, and he was like, I can't believe I'm a role model because I'm just me. And I think that's what's lovely about him, is he is so unaware and he's so endearing, and I love. He's one of my favourite role models, actually. I think he's really, I think he's done really well for himself.
That's an important point, because the reason why I suggested this topic, there's been a lot of news and allegations coming up in the UK scene, especially the rap, drill, grime scene, of rappers who have been accused of groping women. Tim Westwood, I think they're planning to do a documentary called Surviving Tim Westwood. Kojo Funds, the young ads from D Block Europe has been accused of some stuff.
Although I think Young, just to clarify, I think Young ads is more about his choice of language and behaviour. Yeah. I don't think he's actually been called on any sexual charges or anything.
The reason why I ran this up was not to necessarily discuss them individuals, but it just occurred to me, like, is there a lack of positive role models in society today? Now, coming from
I suppose where you look, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think we put a lot of emphasis on celebrities being role models, and I remember a couple of years ago, Lewis Hamilton coming out and saying, I never decided to be a role model. You guys have given me that title. And he said, I'm a young man with a lot of fame and wealth who is still growing and learning. I'm going to make mistakes. Yeah. And I commended him from that, because for me, my biggest role model, first and foremost, is my mum. She always has been my biggest inspiration. I'm never going to be ashamed to say that. Raising 5 kids on our own, we've all turned out pretty well.
And one of them was you. So that's your brownie point.
So, and then coming from that single parent home, and I think, especially, I can only talk from the black community, I do feel that most of our role models that we try and chuck out are athletes or celebrities. Now,
they're predominantly, yeah, and I think that's the next part of the pod, yeah, predominantly.
How many, when I speak to young people, I always say, just because they're famous doesn't mean they're nice people. Like, how many times has that come out recently from famous people who have not turned out to be that nice?
They're human, they make mistakes.
So, for me, I was brought up that a role model is someone that goes out there, works hard, provides for their family, and helps others. So that could be the cleaner at your workplace. That could be the CEO at your workplace. Like the influences in my life personally will be my mum, my uncle John, who was my first male role model in my life. My first father figure was a DJ. I looked up to him, seeing him DJ, and I became a DJ to be like my uncle John. And then it was one of my first bosses in my day job, and I never thought I'd go to work and find a role model at work who looked up. I look up to him massively. And then my other two role models are my mate Al and my best mate Wayne, because Al, I don't want to fill him up with sauce, but Al is one of them people. He's a father. He's hardworking. He's driven, and he's not scared to tell me when my ish is not on point. But then Al also knows when to tell me, you need to shake stuff off. You can do better. And I've always admired you for that. You've always done that for me, you and Wayne. So I'm not gonna ever say that role models need to be someone that are famous. Like, role models are what are around you. And one of the famous quotes that I love reading is, surround yourself with the same people, the same drive and ambition as you, and you shall succeed with it. So if you hang around people that have got deadbeat lives, you're going to lead a deadbeat life, because you've got nothing to push you up on. And I feel like these young kids, when they're in these situations on the estates, that's all they know. And that's not their fault. Maybe that's society failing them.
No, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. But I think, backing up what you said, it's, if you hang around with 5 clowns, that means you're just the 6th one. Do you know what I mean? And you're right. It's the people that you spend your time with, and for some young adults, they've got no choice in the matter, because it's just the people that are around them, and they might want to seek out people who are got a better aspect of life. And better views on life, but they're just not there. And I think, this is where Chris comes in a bit, and I just feel like Graving hit the nail on the head, because my next question to Chris was going to be, why do we always look at athletes and musicians and people in the public sphere? Why do we always look at them as our positive role models? And whereas Danny has, said herself, these people are flawed, they're only human. Why do we always look at those people, but not at the pillars of community, the people that are out there being the first black person to do this, the first woman to do that? Why are we not looking at those people? Why do we predominantly look at celebrities and entertainers?
Just an interesting one. I think the connotations just of role model are it's something you aspire to, and by very nature of aspirations, it's typically someone who is out of reach, and by virtue of being out of reach, it's someone that's typically famous. I don't know why, because I think when people aspire to things, that like it to be much like a dream of some sort, like it's something that you want to be almost seemingly out of reach. So by the nature of that, it's got to be something that's hard to attain, and that's normally people that are famous, like people that are exponentially rich or incredibly talented, like Mr. Kanye. Like, regardless of his foolishness and the way he acts and things he fails to do or chooses to do, like, he's incredibly talented. And you look at other famous individuals that have gone through great difficulties to get to where they are, like Jay-Z and even like Barack Obama. You look at people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, like people that have come, like, they were talented, but without the right application and the right drive, they would never have got to the level and the status that they've got. So I think Greg's right in the sense that...
Chris, what do you always say to me? There's a quote that you always say to me. Where is it you say? When talent fails, what?
Yeah, when talent fails, to work hard, hard work beats talent. Like,
yeah, always.
I completely agree with what you're saying, Greg, about your role models being people that you grew up with, like your best friends and like your uncle and that, like, and your mum, like it. There's a saying that you should never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
And I think that's true, because I think, like, it's been touched on, like, people that we hold in high esteem, or people that we idolize, if we were to meet them, they may not be the people that we're hoping them to be, regardless of what they've achieved. So there is definitely that element that role models.
They can't be, and I'll bring Danny in here in a minute. They can't be, because I believe that, you know, the true geniuses of this world are very, very, very unhinged people, and I don't mean unhinged in a disrespectful way, but I mean to be truly a genius and to be truly excellent at what you do, and you can't be a normal person. You think, you see the world differently. You are completely different to, you know. I think the one that springs to mind most was, for me, is Amy Winehouse. Now, I came across her when she was in her peak, when she released her first album, Frank, and I absolutely loved it. It's probably one of the main reasons why I love female singer-songwriters, British female, you know, artists, because I heard Amy Winehouse and was absolutely in love with her and what she could do. But I could never understand why she just could not stay clean and sober and out of trouble. I couldn't understand it. And then, unfortunately, she passed away. And I just think it goes back to that concept. And I think her dad mentioned it once, and he just said she just was never meant to have a full, long life, because people like that are just so, they hurt so much, they bleed so much, they're so different to the normal person, that, you know, her dad used to say that she would break up with boyfriends and she'd spend days on the floor crying and not moving, and those were the inspirations to, like, some of her great music. And
well, look at Adele, bruv. Adele was the same.
Yeah, all of that, all of those people, all of those absolute geniuses in this world that you look at, you think, how are you able to do that? You know, Ronaldo gets a lot of stick for his unconventional family in the way he treats his children, in terms of, like, perfection and blah blah blah. But you know what? You will never see another him like that in this world, because to have that much genius on your mind, you've got to be slightly different than the average person.
I think,
Sorry, Danny, I interrupted you. Go, Danny.
That's right. And so I think creative people, they think differently, or they act differently, and they are different. And I think it's like, when you say you should never meet your heroes, but my boss, I've worked with him for a very long time, and, you know, there might be things that, you know, he's a shrewd businessman and people might not like him, but he is who he is. And I think because I understand him and I understand the way he works and the way he is, I'm not judging him on who he is, but I appreciate what he's achieved in life.
Whatever you trying to get a pay rise?
Yeah, no. That would be add a zero. No, for what I think, because I see his style and what he's achieved and what he might have had to overcome to achieve what he's got. I don't know, I just don't agree with you should never. I get, in a sense, like, if it's a fantasy in your mind, you might, when people say, oh my God, I love Thor, you know, and then you actually meet him and he's a disappointment. So I get that, but it's like, when you know someone and what they've achieved and the struggle that they've been through, I don't know, I think you can accept their fault, but actually understand what they've done to get to where they are. You can appreciate it. And I think sometimes, me personally, I like to hear the struggles and I like to understand what they've been through, where they've got to, because I think it makes normal people like me that have probably come from the council estate, it gives you a chance to think, well, if he's done it, I can do it. If he's overcome this, I can overcome that. And sometimes it's different things for different people as to what they're aspiring to. That makes sense.
But I think with that as well, I think we need to learn our expectations of what success means. Now, to some people, success may just be getting on a property ladder. So everyone has a different level of success. Now, if we're like, one of my business role models and idols, as you and Chris will well know, is Richard Branson. If I have a business opportunity, I always say, what would Richard do? That's always been my line. But to get to his level, or anybody like Ronaldo, Lewis Hamilton, it's only going to be 5%. Only 5% will get to that level of success. That level. So not everyone's going to do it. So we need to manage our expectations. Now, I think a lot of these young rappers and singers and performers, especially with social media, and like what Danny highlighted earlier about the lies that are on there, they see people riding around in big cars, Balenciaga trainers, rented accommodation houses for video shoots, and they all think they're going to get to that success, which is not really success. So I think people need to measure their success in a different level. Like my mom always said to me that her legacy is her children, and for that she's successful. So you need to.
Yeah.
I think we all need to manage what their expectations are. And this week, I've not had the best week, but Al told me this week that sometimes I put up too much pressure on myself. And for me, it's a case of, I think, a role model for me, like I said, Al is one of them, to just manage our expectations of what success means. And Al, before I kind of go back to you, a nice point I like to raise on Cristiano Ronaldo is before he signed for Sporting Lisbon, he had his best mate with him. I think he was 13, and they both trialled out for Sporting Lisbon. Ronaldo didn't get the spot.
Yeah, I like this.
His best mate got offered the spot. His best mate was technically better. And his best mate at that age...
Is Quaresma?
Said to him... No, it's another best mate before Quaresma. Said...
Not Quaresma.
No, he said, I don't want the spot. Give it to Cristiano. And he said, why? It's like, because he's harder working than me. And one thing you can never knock Ronaldo for is that guy works hard.
More than any footballer I've ever known. And do you know why?
He looked after that guy still, though, didn't he?
You know, he's never touched a drop of alcohol in his life. You know that.
But I wish I could say the same, but some of my best ideas have come from when I'm waved.
But do you know why? It's nothing to do. It's nothing to do with his physique. It's nothing to do with him progressing in life. Do you know why he's never touched a drop? His dad was an alcoholic, and throughout his whole childhood, you know, he watched how basically his dad drunk himself to death. And I think he sort of touched on the fact that, you know, where he lived and the life that they led, it was his dad constantly like trying to provide for them, and jobs were scarce, and he didn't earn a lot of money, and all of the stress of that just led him to drink a lot of alcohol. And it was quite well accepted in the community that the men would drink alcohol, and he literally drunk himself to death. And you know, I think not long after he signed for United, I might be wrong, I'll fact check this, his dad passed away, and it affected him quite badly. But you know, respecting that,
Al,
it was nothing to do with football. He chose to never drink a drop of alcohol because he felt
you said to
that
me
poison
earlier
ruined somebody's life, and he'll never let him ruin his own.
Sometimes the stars are aligned.
Go on.
If that never happened to him, he may not have been that successful.
I'm a firm believer of this. Because Gravy, he's known this week. I mean, we'll wrap this up in a minute because we're well over time. But you know, I've seen quite a lot of Gravy this week, and I was speaking to my missus about this because she said to me, you know, you've spoken to Gravy like every day for the past couple of weeks. And I said, it used to be like that, and life got in the way. But somewhere along the line, because of this podcast, we've reconnected with each other. So now it feels weird when we don't speak every day. So the point of that being is these things that happen are part of these, I believe, these massive star aligning moments. It's these concepts of if we hadn't have had the conversations we had, and I hadn't my beautiful little girl hadn't spilled coffee over my MacBook, and I hadn't had to buy a brand new one, and I hadn't had to speak to Gravy about buying a brand new MacBook, and I hadn't got the idea to start, you know, falling back into playing with audio, which is one of my favorite things to do, and I hadn't had that conversation with Gravy, we wouldn't have talked about the podcast. And if I hadn't have bought that new MacBook, you know, this wouldn't be happening. All of this is happening. The four of us are sat down here because my 1-year-old spilled coffee over my MacBook. Quite literally, that is the whole reason why this is happening. So everything that day, the time I woke up, the time she woke up, what she had for breakfast, where we went that day, me making that cup of coffee and putting it on the side, and my missus sitting next to her on the table on the chair with that cup of coffee has led to where we sit today. So sometimes you've got to look at how well the stars have aligned to put you where you are. And like Ray was saying with Cristiano Ronaldo, that's exactly, it's the saddest thing to happen. His dad had to die for him to be one of the best men he could be. But, you've got to, don't ignore the signs when the stars align for you, man. Definitely.
But you know what as well, Al? Like, no, I love that fact because, Al, how many times do we talk about reading books? It's never about, did you see that on social media? We never talk about what we see on social media. We always suggest, bruv, we need to read this book this week. Read this book.
We spent half an hour today talking about books, and I sent you some books, and we took the whole conversation today, barring other things we talked about, which we can't talk about in the pod. It was all about. We spent all our time talking about books.
So I think that it's like, at the end of the day, like Al's always said to me, sometimes the stars are aligned for things to happen. And one of the things I love is there's no success without failure. Like, you need to fail to succeed. And I think, especially
you can't fix what's not broken.
Yeah, and I think in today's society, I think we with social media, we think no one has failures. But I've got where I've got to by failing. Like, I started Otto Clothing 6 years ago. It was our birthday on Wednesday. 6 years for the clothing. If I didn't start the clothing, I wouldn't be doing the podcast. I wouldn't be doing the brunches. I wouldn't be starting the magazine. So, but I had clothing lines before that flopped. No one doesn't talk about them. No one does. People probably don't even know that. So, but if I didn't have them failures, then I wouldn't have had this. So, you got to embrace your failures, but you need to learn from them. So,
So Danny, you want to wrap it up for us?
No, I agree. I was actually listening to a podcast about, and Holly Tucker was talking to Fern Cotton, and she said when they first started her business with another woman, that she became, basically the woman was her boss and she became partners with her. They started a business and it was failing and they were losing money, and her parents had to remortgage their house, and she just kept going and kept going, and she said you need to treat your business like a baby. You just don't give up, keep going. If you know it's going to work, just keep going. And I fully believe that. And you see what you're saying about the stars aligned, like at a wedding, I came to an event of Greg years ago, and then I saw him at a wedding, a mutual friend's wedding, and we spoke, and then I hired him for a work event. Other than that, then I came to your brunch, and that's how we became to do this. If none of that had happened, would we have done this? Would I have ever?
And everything you did on those days, the breakfast you ate, the time you woke up, if you'd done them half a second, it's just the whole butterfly effect, isn't it? If you'd done them half a second, half a minute differently, you would have wore a different dress or different shoes. It would have never happened. Yeah. So sometimes you've got to look at these things and be so thankful that the stars aligned the way they did.
Yeah, true.
Like, you know what I do want to say a big shout out to my boy Otto Chris as well. As much as my pain in my ass, he also pushes me every day to be better. So Chris, I've got to give you a little shout for that. You annoy me, but you annoy me.
Are we gonna pre-warn the audience that this is a tearjerker and they might need some tissues?
But you know what though? That's another thing. I do feel like, especially in the male thing, we find it hard telling each other, you know what, bruv, like you inspire me. Do you know what I mean? I have no issues telling my male friends, you know what, you inspire me. I think we need more of that. Like, forget all these negative stuff. Come on, man. We need to uplift each other. Danny, I've told you numerous times how proud I am of you. Mum of
Thank
two.
You.
I couldn't do that. I could not. 2 kids. You give me 2 kids, they'll run wild. They'll be feral. I'm not even going to lie.
Mine are.
I couldn't.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
but no, it's been a good one, I think. And you know what, for me, regardless of how many people listen or don't listen, I think it's been a good one. And I think we've highlighted a lot here. And I feel like hopefully this platform will continue to grow. and the only way we can make it grow is paying it forward. And for me, there's definitely people I want to shout out that I want other people to look at over social media. Personally, so similar to Greg, I've been very lucky to have a lot of positive role models that are male and female in my life. My mum and my aunt come to mind of two very big role models for me. My dad, a role model. My brother, being so absolutely talented in what he does in art. I never met a man so passionate about art and graphics, and he is an absolute superstar at that. My
Also,
best friends, without
official Otto photographer, big up.
Yeah,
Krittikal Eye.
And without baiting up my best friends on this pod, we've got Gravy, who's there, that's followed his dream, didn't go to university like everybody else, and went out and followed his dream and did what he had to do, and has been able to make his hobby part of his living. I've got three other pals who have all owned properties and they're in good jobs and they've been really good. And I just feel like if we're going to go down a social media route and we want people to look at each other, I feel like we do have to big those people up. So the people I would like to big up on social media is two people who I want everyone to have a look at and follow. And first one being a very good family friend, distant cousin of mine, called Dr. Jonathan Ashong-Lamptey. He's been my sort of go-to guy for as long as I can remember for advice in life and education and jobs. And on Instagram, he's down as J.A. Lamptey. He's a diversity and an inclusion protagonist, and very recently on BBC News on there, he's somebody I want everyone to check out. And as Gravy mentioned, the official Otto photographer, Krittikal Eye Media, my brother. And if you go and look at his page, you see that the stuff that he does is absolute quality. So is anybody else that wants to shout out some social media?
So role model, I did actually forget to mention, so I was actually brought up by very strong women in my family as well. So they've been massive role models. My mum, my aunties, my nan. We're a women's strong family, so I just want to say thank you to them because they make me who I am today. And also, my brother, he's actually started up a new business. He delivers cocktails, freshly made cocktails directly to your home. Follow him on Instagram. It's Southern_cocktails, and the cocktails are amazing and they are of strength. So do be careful. You will get a hangover.
I'd like to shout out a couple of people who I'd like to. I can't forget your mum either. I don't mention your mum. I know I'm not getting my Easter meal like I will get every year. So I got to shout out mum. And for people that are listening who are like wondering who this Gravy guy is, that is actually my nickname. So even though I'm DJ Golden Child, my school nickname was Gravy because it's all gravy, baby.
How was it, Chris?
How was what?
You must went for a shoe.
You went to drop the kids off, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be honest, and I hate to do this because I'm quite a modest guy, but my phone was blowing up. I just had a couple of things to deal with, so I just needed...
Okay, sorry for interrupting you, player. I'm sorry.
Needed 30 seconds just to, collect my thoughts, answer the messages and that. I apologise.
Babes, I'm busy, okay? Give me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Give me 10 minutes. Come on. Babes.
So, sorry, Chris, we're just shouting at people that we want other people to follow on socials, so I was just doing mine. So
you were just shouting me out, yeah?
I was going to shout you out. I do want to shout out In Events London. That is my uncle's page.
Yeah, Uncle John, who is the tallest man I've seen in my life.
AKA DJ Timmy B. Also, follow my brother, DJ D Jones. Follow Audio Geek. That's some guy that's been following me since I was 11 years old.
I heard he was a bad man, That's what I heard.
Also, shout out.
True, yeah, he can grow a beard as well. Like
this chief called Otto Chris. Also, follow this lady that has brought so much stability to my life lately, and that's Winging It for Women. Does it? Follow her. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe us on the YouTube. Leave a comment, even if you like or dislike. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Follow the podcast on Insta at Otto Let's Talk podcast. Don't forget you can follow the best London's 3-hour Bottomless brunch, which is back in October at Otto Bottoms Up. And you can follow the best clothing line, 6 years, still going strong, Otto Clothing on the gram. And don't forget to follow the magazine, which comes out in September, Otto Magazine. Oh, yeah. And if you want to follow me, the fat boy with a pretty boy smile, DJ_Golden Child on the gram and Twitter.
Well, that's beautifully brought us to the end of the pod. Unfortunately, we've tried our best to keep it sort of similar time as the first one. We've been unable to do so, but to be fair, the content, I believe, is probably the best one we've done. So hopefully you guys, as Gravy said, like and subscribe, share it, and please give us some feedback, because, you know, we spend a lot of time reading it and trying to shape it to what the people listen to. So give us some feedback. So without further ado, I thank the people very much that have been on the pod. Thank you very much, Gravy.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you very much, Danny, and thank you very much, Chris.
Cheers, guys.
So
in a bit.
So you'll see us in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Peace.